people like to say that, the student population, the youth population is our future. And yes, they are, but they're also our right now. So I have two young girls, and arguably the decisions that we're making in the House of Commons right now are going to impact the student population a lot more than even my girls. So they are very much at the front line of all of this, and should have an opinion in the work that we're doing. And so we don't touch base with our campus clubs. We're not doing that work with our younger population. And now we have this massive generational gap in our party that we're actively trying to fill now, because we have not been doing this mentorship work. We haven't been bringing the students in, and we need to start doing that.
Welcome to Activists Make History. My name is Peggy Nash. I've been a union activist, a feminist advocate, and for nearly a decade, a member of Parliament in Canada's House of Commons. I know what it's like to start from scratch, against the odds, in building a community campaign or running for political office. Our lives are hugely affected by political decisions, but for the underrepresented in political life, Canadian politics can seem like a secret society designed to shut them out. I'm here with a special series from Perspectives, a Canadian journal of political economy and social democracy, to lift the curtain on these electoral mysteries and show the underdogs how we can do it. In Activists Make History, I talk to activists, experts, political leaders, and those like me who've been there and done that, to show you can make real progressive change in how Canadian democracy functions so that we can win a better world through elected office. In January 2026, I invited candidates running to be the next leader of the federal NDP onto Activists Make History for conversations from the campaign trail. Tanille Johnston is a social worker, city councilor, and candidate running to be the next leader of the federal NDP. A member of the Weweke First Nation, she was born and raised in Campbell River on Vancouver Island, where she's led an impactful career in Indigenous health and social work. She's held leadership roles in the First Nations Health Authority, and in 2022, she led a successful campaign for Campbell River City Council before running as a federal NDP candidate in 2025. A longtime social worker and change maker, Tanille brings a broad policy vision centered on equity, affordable housing, accessible healthcare, and childcare, as well as climate action and stronger Indigenous representation in decision-making. Tanille, welcome to Activists Make History. Good morning. Very early where you are.
Yes. I was going to say bright, but it's not bright. It's dark at 6 a.m. still. So yeah, eventually we'll see the sun start rising around now.
Very kind of you to join us so early out in BC. And just on that, voters, especially progressive voters, have gotten used to party leaders from the big urban centers, especially in recent years. What would a leader like you, rooted in Vancouver Island communities, bring to the NDP that we haven't seen before?
Yeah, I'm hoping to truly bring that real working class, rural community perspective into leadership. I think it's very common for folks in rural areas to feel a little bit left behind, and maybe like our kind of urban center strategy doesn't really land in rural communities, and really wanting to make sure that when we're developing those electoral strategies, that we're doing it in a way that enables our rural and remote candidates, and even in the suburbs, to be able to add some nuance to our messaging that we're trying to get across to everyday Canadians, to make sure that it's really motivating people and allowing those folks in rural, remote, suburban communities to know that, like, we see you and we value you, and we want to be able to make sure that we're representing you well as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And especially we've seen increasingly the NDP, especially in the eastern part of Canada, really just succeed in major urban centers. But can you give me an example, maybe an experience you've had, or just an example of where you've seen that disconnect of a message, maybe urban base, that's not landing with people in more suburban, as you say, or rural or remote communities?
Yeah, so my first experience running federally was the last election. Um, and people know you very well in rural ridings. We're often a small town community vibe. And some of the messaging that was being relayed to candidates, so we get our email kind of every morning of here's your talking points, here's your major pieces from the party. A lot of those didn't really resonate with how we communicate in rural ridings or even how I would speak as a candidate. And there didn't seem to be a lot of flexibility and support for changing the tone a little bit and reaching out to people in a different way. And that was something that I really struggled with. The second you become a talking head in a rural or remote community, you're going to get pegged for it right away. People know
see it.
you. They know who you are. They know how you talk. And so that was really, really challenging. And I mean, especially in the last election, and I don't know if this was only specific to rural ridings. I feel like it was more than rural ridings, but we didn't pivot. We didn't pivot in the last election when we saw this fear-based wave coming. We didn't change our messaging to support people to understand how their vote was going to land in their specific community. So I ran in North Island, Powell River, on Bay Island. We were NDP for a decade before the last election, and we could see very well that the Liberals were going to run a strong candidate, and that was going to pull the vote to Liberal, being that it was a fear-based vote that we were entering into. And we weren't really supported to launch into the educational messaging of how politics sits in North Island, Powell River, to really make sure people understood that if you vote Liberal here, the only thing you're going to do is elect a Conservative candidate. The Liberals haven't won in North Island, Powell River in over 50 years. Not even when, like, you know, Justin was coming in and he had his great hair and his awesome personality. They still did not win in North Island, Powell River. So only thing it was going to do was elect a Conservative. And we should have come out hard with that language right at the beginning of the election and enabled our candidates to really teach that. And we didn't do it. We stayed our course, we ran our line, and it really didn't work for us at all. And that was really, really challenging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know what you mean, that inflexibility and not being able to pivot in the moment, depending on the conditions. Is that the way your community went? It ended up electing a Conservative MP?
Yeah.
Yeah, that must have been so disappointing.
It was. I mean, you could see it. Like, we knew it was coming, right? And so we tried to do as much as we could. And it was also like my first experience as a candidate for the federal party. So do I really know better than this big machine that has been doing this work for decades and decades and decades? Like, that was a battle that I had for sure, wanting to respect the party and what the party was saying, but also, like, I do really know my community extremely well. So that was super challenging. And I mean, even given the circumstances, we did extremely well. We finished the highest non-incumbent candidate in the country for the NDP. You know, Heather McPherson's riding is kind of coined as being the safest in the country. I think it's about 80 square kilometers, her riding. Mine is over 56,000 square kilometers. I have 22 First Nations governments in my riding, as well as our Métis Nation and our urban and away from home Indigenous people. Very complex riding. And we finished, I think, just over 1,600 votes behind Heather. So we did really, really well, all things considering. So we do talk about that as a team all the time to make sure it's like, yes, we weren't successful and we, lost that war essentially against the Liberals. Our Conservative candidate did absolutely nothing to really earn those votes. The Liberals handed it to him in a pretty little basket. So yeah, so we did really well, but I do feel we could have done some strategy differently to really support these areas where all the Liberals were going to do was going to elect a Conservative.
Mm-hmm. That it was a kind of unique
election, given that the key opposition was, in fact, Donald Trump. So who knows what the future holds? I guess every election is unique. But tell me a bit about what you bring to the leadership campaign. Now, you've decided after one, you have lots of city council experience, but after one run, you've decided to jump into the federal leadership campaign. You've spent over 14 years as a social worker and held roles in Indigenous health leadership. Tell me how that has shaped your vision for the federal NDP. What do you bring, Tanille Johnston, that is unique to this campaign?
Yeah, I mean, I'm from a completely different generation than everybody else, so I am a lot younger.
You're the youngest candidate, aren't you?
Yeah, and by a couple decades for some of our other leadership candidates.
Good
Shout
for
out
you.
to Tony, like he's doing well out there. Yeah, so I mean, it is a big piece of it. I do feel like the NDP needs to grow into a new era. We need to start using modern day technology in our strategy, in our organizing. We need to bring in the student population. I started politics in student politics as a student organizer, and we need that level of energy and enthusiasm and excitement. And these are folks that are in the thick of it in politics. People like to say that, you know, the student population, the youth population is our future. And yes, they are, but they're also our right now. So I have two young girls, and arguably the decisions that we're making in the House of Commons right now are going to impact the student population a lot more than even my girls. So they are very much at the front line of all of this, and should have an opinion in the work that we're doing. And so we don't touch base with our campus clubs. We're not doing that work with our younger population. And now we have this massive generational gap in our party that we're actively trying to fill now, because we have not been doing this mentorship work. We haven't been bringing the students in, and we need to start doing that. The other thing is that in the phase that the party's in right now, we're in a nation building situation. We need to grow the party. The work that we have to do is on the outside of the House of Commons. Yes, we need to keep our colleagues accountable within it and still be loud and stormy inside of those walls. But we have a lot of work to do on the ground outside of the House of Commons in order to get election ready. And that's the work where my skill set thrives. I'm very good at working across difference. I develop rapport very quickly because of my social work skill set. I'm an Indigenous woman. Like, I see great value in meeting with our nations and saying, hey, I know you don't have a great government to relationship with anybody. Let's be that party for you. Where are you at? Where do you need partnership? And how can we champion that for you in the House of Commons? And let's build those strong relationships. During the last election, out ahead of it, both provincially and federally, I ran an equity ballot box campaign. We touched base with every nation inside of our geography to ensure that they had a ballot box in their community. So we saw ballot boxes go where ballot boxes have never been before, which absolutely increased our voter turnout. We put ballot boxes in not only geographical accessible spaces, but spaces that nations identified as safe for their people, which increased that voter turnout from our nations within our riding, because they could go down to their own community center and vote. They could go to their own, their youth center and vote. These spaces that they go to and activate all the time was where their ballot boxes were. So we need to be doing that type of work, and not just because we're hoping for a vote. We have to start doing this work in a really genuine relationship-based way so that we develop trust. When you can develop trust, those votes will come. Stop vote seeking. Stop making people pay $10 for memberships. Make memberships free. Welcome people into the party. Support them in their own expertise, and we'll grow naturally, and we'll grow in a very strongly rooted way.
So you trace your activism back to your student organizing days, do you? Or were you someone who comes out of a political family? Were you someone who got dragged to demonstrations when you were a kid?
No, not at all. Not at all. My mom owned our local Hallmark store and my dad worked at a mine. we weren't very politically activated, I would say. I mean, arguably politics entered my life when I got a status number. Your life starts looking a little bit differently and you just see the world a little bit differently when you start to understand where that number came from. So that made me very aware of the government and its role in my life, especially at a federal level, because that's where my healthcare is governed, right? As far back as my grade 3-4 split class, we were having a conversation about, so the United States had a plan. They were going to build this giant bridge from like the continental United States to Hawaii. And we were talking about this in my class and I was like, that doesn't make any sense. I was like, well, why don't they just build us a bridge to Quadra Island and then we can give them our ferry? As if, like, because I thought they just genuinely had a problem of getting it to Hawaii. And I remember my teacher saying, you know, if you ever run for politics, like you've got my vote. And I didn't even know what she was talking about back then. But yeah, and student politics was amazing. Being able to organize on provincial and federal levels with other like social justice minded progressive students across the country was pretty phenomenal. I mean, I remember there was a pro-life protest that was happening at UBC, and at UVic, we organized to support their counter protest. And so we loaded up into a couple different vehicles and hit the ferry and went into support the rights of women to choose. So yeah, I think most of my organizing was back in student politics.
And then you took that to run for city council, which is of course a level of politics also quite close to the community. What do you think those two political experiences have taught you, and how you see, what your vision is for the federal leadership, for the future of the NDP?
Yeah, I think it tells me that like we're ready for maybe an Indigenous leader at this level of politics, that people want progressives in their governments. I'm the first First Nations person to sit at the city council table in Campbell River, which is great, but like it took us to 2022 to get there. And that's just shameful. And I mean, that experience, I do sit there with 6 conservatives. So it's me and a slate of conservatives that ran together. So if there's something that's going to give you practice for federal politics, I mean, there you go. It's a bit of a tough crowd in those chambers. So yeah, and I'm not someone that backs down from a challenge. I'm not someone that really even acknowledges power structures. I don't find that useful. As a social worker, you're fighting systems that were never built for the people that you're fighting for. They're meant to keep people down and shut out, and that's just our life, right? Is fighting those systems, and they're all government systems, every last one of them. So like that experience is something that is extremely valuable in politics, being able to, walk into a room where everyone absolutely hates you and leave that room with a mutual agreement on how you're going to work moving forward together. Like this is politics in a nutshell. Arguably, I think we could benefit from a lot more social work in politics, because I think we'd be able to get a little bit further. And I mean, even looking at kind of some of my predecessors in the party, people keep looking for Jack, and Jack's amazing. Absolutely. He took the party to new heights and did something to emulate and that we want to get back to. But the pre-work was done by Alexic McDonough. The pre-work of building the party was Alexa, a social worker from Nova Scotia, one of the first female leaders of a major party, brought us back. The right person for the right time, for the right length of time. Anyone that holds on to leadership, and this is in any industry, in my opinion, fire yourself. And you're going to be doing your organization, your place of work, your federal party a disservice by holding on for too long. This moment is where my skill set will thrive. bringing in new people into the party, connecting with that student movement where the brunt of my experience was as an organizer. That's the energy and the style of politics that we need right now to rebuild the party and reroute the party. And I really, really want to use my skill set to do that work. I also have this really strange, and it's built into my genes, I can handle a ton of work very well. I can go all day long, back-to-back days, over and over again, and manage it well. And I want to use that energy and my skill set to rebuild this party. And then let's give it to someone that wants to be our prime minister. Like, and if I'm in it for 4 years and we're looking really good and prime minister's next, let's have another leadership race. And if it's still me that you want to be your prime minister, then let's go for it. But if someone else is better suited for that role, let's elect them. Let's put them in this place, and then let's push them forward just like Jack did.
You know, you wouldn't be the first national leader who was a very young woman. I think of Jacinda Ardern. I think of, I can't recall her name, but the head of the leader of, I think it was Finland. There are young women who have stood out, and you talk about hard work. I know you are working full time while you are running this campaign. Tell us how the heck you are doing that, because it's a big country, and I'm sure Zoom helps, but I'm sure there's still considerable amount of time and travel involved in your campaign.
It is, and I'm grateful for my team being patient with me. I don't have the luxury of being able to take off 6 months and just go boot around the country. My family would have to file for bankruptcy if we did that. So like, we're a 2-income earner family. We have, 2 girls, 2 dogs, our house. We've got things we have to take care of. And I believe that the NDP is a party of the working class. Unfortunately, the leadership race has been structured in a little bit more of an elitist way, which has made it extremely challenging. I was very grateful we made it out to the East Coast. We wanted to go out there since the beginning. We resonate very well out there. There's a lot of work to do in the East Coast, and people are ready for it, but we need to give them some attention and some support to get going. So yeah, it's been a really fine balance. And I mean, this just kind of goes back to like, this is my energy level. Like, I can do this stuff all day long. I mean, we're in like, I don't even know what month we're in now, 4th. I'm grateful that my employer has been understanding and supporting me as best they can to do this, knowing that I'm out gallivanting around, kind of, towing this boat, trying to get people excited about the leadership race and growing the NDP. But yeah, I mean, it's not easy. It's not simple, but it's just, this is kind of what I'm used to taking on. As an Indigenous person, you only get so many opportunities, and you don't let anything discourage you from going after them, because if you did, you'll never see us show up anywhere. So we have to enter these positions. We have to do this work so that we can demonstrate to ourselves that we can take up space in these arenas, and we can do it really well. So it's much bigger than the leadership race for me. People see that, as a young person, as a woman, as a First Nation, like, you can step into this work and you can do it, and you can be really good at it. So that is a really big motivating factor for me too. Like, if we're really going to grow the party, we have to show up in these capacities to make sure that we're inspiring all Canadians and not just a subsection of urban Canadians.
Tanille, I teach a course at Toronto Metropolitan University called Women in the House, and it is about inspiring young women, those who identify as women, to consider getting involved in politics. And I do bring in role models to inspire them and to see themselves in political leadership. So maybe I can put you on the spot and invite you on air to come in. I don't think I can afford to bring you in person, but maybe via Zoom, come into our class one day. And I think our students would be very inspired.
I would absolutely love that. I would love that. I mean, it was interesting. I was having this conversation with some folks in Langford. I have a responsibility to find folks to run in my path. So even municipally, I've been reaching out, finding those progressives in the community that might be interested in running for politics and saying, I need you to run in the next municipal election. And like same provincially, I found 2 people to actually run for our provincial NDP in the next provincial election. So I mean, I've been inspired by people that aren't even in the NDP. I mean, Jody Wilson-Raybould is a huge inspiration to me, and I was grateful to have her endorsement in the last federal election. It meant the world, and someone that I keep in touch with because she also holds integrity as a core value as myself and lives that very well and very strongly. And I mean,
Yeah,
Alberta
role models
Billy,
are important.
like,
Yeah.
yeah,
As I said, it is a huge country. I don't think you realize it till you start going across the country and seeing, your community very well, but you start reaching out and seeing that there are communities right across the country of good people, people that you want to connect with. And you mentioned Jack Layton earlier, and he, like other leaders, have often said that the path to government leads through Quebec. Now, you are a non-Francophone, and I'm wondering what your plan would be if you were elected leader. What would your plan be for connecting with Quebecers and organizing in Quebec?
yeah, absolutely. We're very privileged and we have a very strong crew of Francophones on our team. And they're amazing. They've been sitting on the campaign trail with me and going through Quebec and breaking down that language barrier while I learn. Um, I feel like people in Quebec maybe don't see how much of a connection they have with our Indigenous populations across the country. So Quebec has their Sherbrooke Declaration that really champions like to own the nuances of Quebec, to acknowledge Quebec as, you know, their own individual province, government, and to really lean into that. And that type of sovereignty is exactly what Indigenous people are fighting for all over the country. So they have allyship there. We have a connection there. We have a deeply rooted connection to protecting our language. And they've done it so well across the country to say, how did you do that? Like, how have you maintained that language in the way that you have? And how do we leverage that experience and that influence so that we can get Indigenous languages across our country to thrive? And there's absolutely work to do in maintaining French across the country. I mean, I live in BC. Our French opportunities really disappear quite quickly in school. You're not really encouraged to continue your French skills in K to 12. And that's something that we can fix. I mean, in BC, we have one Francophone school district for the entire province. So like there's work to do there. But I think we can also support the continuation of our Indigenous languages across the country, especially in alignment with our school districts, because we have so many different dialects across the country that aligning with our school districts and supporting those languages to thrive within school systems would be amazing. It's a privilege to be able to have a second language in your school, and even having a third language would be unreal. I feel like people will really resonate with curiosity and keenness to develop our relationship. I feel like that's going to go a long way in Quebec, especially in rural Quebec, where they do often feel very left behind and not seen by government and have a bit of kind of nuanced issues that they want championed, especially the agricultural industry in Quebec. Our farming industry, arguably across the country, feels very not acknowledged at all. It's not a hot political topic to talk about farming and agriculture when really it's like one of our key industries in Canada. So it's something that we need to be bringing to the forefront more often.
I see the connection there between with you and Tony, your fellow candidate. You're both concerned about the farming community, environmental issues. I can see that connection, which is important. And you two have worked together in solidarity rather than just a purely competitive race, which is unique and refreshing. So thank you for that. We've kept you long enough, but I want to leave listeners with a way to reach out to you. How can people connect with you if they want to support your campaign or just to find out more about Tanille Johnston? What do they do to get in touch?
Yeah, I mean, our website is just tanille.ca, so it's super simple to find me. I am on pretty much every social media channel you can find. Connect with me, shoot me a message on Instagram. I try to be super responsive, and it usually is me you're going to get. I get that question all the time, like, is this actually Tanille? So yeah, any way that suits your communication style best, any platform that you prefer, reach out and I'll make sure that we get connected.
Spoken like a true organizer. Tanille Johnston, thank you so much. And your energy is inspiring. Best of luck on the election campaign. We'll be watching.
Thanks so much. Have a great rest of your day, guys.
You too.
Activists Make History is a special podcast series from Perspectives, a Canadian journal of political economy and social democracy, publication and production of the Broadbent Institute. This show could not have been made possible without the generous contribution of Unifor, Canada's largest private sector union. If you'd like to hear more from Activists Make History, share and subscribe to Perspectives Journal on all major podcast platforms, as well as Press Progress's Sources podcast that digs deeper into the news stories you won't find in the major papers. The Perspectives Journal podcast and Sources are proud members of the Harbinger Media Network, Canada's progressive podcast community. Once again, I'm Peggy Nash, your host for Activists Make History and proud member of the Broadbent Institute's Board of Directors. You can read my latest book, Women United, Stories of Women's Struggles for Equality in the Canadian Auto Workers Union, from Between the Lines Books.